Hi there, everyone. Good night. I am Attorney Tharpe, and I am on live to take your immigration questions. Tonight it's a late night. I am closing out late, but as always, I like to come on here and close out my night with you by taking your immigration related questions. So, if you have any questions, if you're thinking about going through the immigration process, you're going through the immigration process, you can ask your questions right here and I will happily answer. So, I usually come with a topic to talk about myself. Hi there, Vanessa Field Force. Nice to see you and thanks for sharing. And so today earlier today, I talked about applying for the green card while you're in the US, who qualifies. But now I'm going to talk about consular processing, and that's the process where one applies for the green card in their home country. And what that process looks like, what you can expect. I will even talk about those who are in the United States currently, but they don't qualify to apply for the green card here in the US, how they can apply for the green card in their home country. So, before I start, I just want to give you a formal introduction. I am Attorney Tharpe. I focus on immigration law and I help clients basically get status in the United States with a focus on getting the green card and helping people go from undocumented to documented in the United States. So let's get started, right? So consular processing is the process of applying for the green card in your home country at the U.S. Embassy in your home country. So usually the first step of that is to determine how you're going to qualify for the green card through the consular processing. And that's going to be either through an employer. So if you qualify for the green card through an employer, or it's going to be through family. And in some cases, there are special types of visas, but we're going to focus only on the green card process and consular processing. So the first step is to determine how you're going to qualify. So the employer-based green card is it's a little more, so there are so many different types of green cards. And so it really depends on your qualifications, the employer's needs, the needs of the country, to be able to determine which one fits. Also, you need to secure an employer, and that employer has to be willing to sponsor you through the process. So Justin Rowe, go ahead, and I only caught a part of your question, and it says, so if I am from Guyana. So you can go ahead and finish up your question. I will be waiting, but in the meantime, I'll continue talking until I see the rest of your question because I don't see it here. So so employment-based green cards is far more it's more complicated because it really depends on your particular circumstances, your qualifications to determine which one is best, and there are a lot of different moving parts. So is there an employer that's willing to apply for you, and that employer has to be fully engaged in the process. Then there is through family. So do you qualify to apply for the green card through a family member? So you do qualify to apply for the green card through a U.S. citizen parent, a legal permanent resident parent, as long as you're unmarried, you're not married, or a citizen son or daughter who's 21 and up, or a U.S. citizen, so a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident spouse, or a U.S. citizen sibling. So if you have any of those relatives, you could possibly qualify for the green card. Now, once you determine that you qualify, I want to let you know, as I had discussed earlier in my earlier live, that only specific individuals are allowed to stay in the United States, apply for the green card, even if they overstay their visa. Okay, so Jan 47794, can you explain about the 15,000 and 3,000 payment that immigrants can receive? So you try to be a little more specific about where you heard that from, because I don't believe I've heard anything about payments that immigrants can receive. So can you let me know where you heard that from, so I can, explain what I know? Because I have not heard about any payments that immigrants can receive. I don't know if you're referring somehow to the stimulus or, but let me know. Can you just get a little more specific so I can know where you got that information from? So if you're not the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, then you can't overstay your visa. And then, so Jan 47794, with the stimulus, I don't believe that there are any special payments that go to immigrants. However, the best, it may be for another professional to advise on that, like a tax person who can advise on the day-to-day news about the stimulus. However, I've not heard about immigrants receiving specific payments, but what I have heard is that the latest stimulus package allows for mixed immigrant families to receive the stimulus payments as well. And the stimulus payments depend on, so if there are children, right, U.S. citizen children in the household, then the parent gets a certain amount of money per, I believe it's $1,400 per child. However, that is as far as I've heard. I don't believe that there are any special payments, stimulus payments, particularly for immigrants. So if you're not the immediate relative of a U.S. citizen, that means you're not the spouse of a U.S. citizen, the parent of a U.S. citizen, or the child who's under 21 and unmarried, then you will fall outside of that category of immigrant that's allowed to stay here, overstay their visa, and still be able to apply for the green card in the U.S. That means that you'll likely have to complete the green card process in your home country. So that's called consular processing. And how does that work? So the first thing is to determine whether you've been here for more than 180 days without status. And if that is the case, I would not recommend that you just leave the country and decide, okay, I'm going to finish a green card process in my home country. You have to go through steps. The reason being that if you don't qualify to apply for the green card while you're in the U.S. and you overstayed by 180 days in the U.S., that means that you were in the U.S. without your papers for more than 180 days. What will happen is that once you leave the country, you will be barred for 3 years. If you overstayed by over a year, then that's a 10-year bar from coming to the United States. So what you'll have to do first is see if you qualify for a waiver. And then now there's a special type of waiver. I like to explain it as it's an application for forgiveness for living in the U.S. without your papers. And if you qualify for that waiver, you will be able to apply for that waiver, still wait in the United States, and then as soon as it's approved, and as soon as you get your interview, you can go to your interview and attend the interview in your home country with the approved waiver and not be barred from returning to the United States. You would actually still be allowed to get your green card and return to the United States. So this is called the unlawful presence, or the I-601A waiver. And not everybody qualifies, but it's going to be the spouse or the parent of a U.S. citizen or a legal permanent resident. So if you have a spouse or a parent, a U.S. citizen or legal permanent resident, spouse or parent, then you can apply for the waiver and show that your spouse or parent will experience extreme hardships without you. So Butterjam 48, when is the case sent to the NVC? So great question. So when your relative or the employer files an application, it's usually called a petition in the United States. And that is usually up to the U.S. person or U.S. employer to file and attach the evidence. And once it's considered and the USCIS approves it, all being well, then they send it to the National Visa Center. The National Visa Center usually stays in contact with the petitioner to gather the necessary documents like the affidavit of support, and civil documents like birth certificates, and divorce decrees, marriage certificates. Once they gather all the documents that they've requested, then it goes on to the embassy to be scheduled for the interview. Yvette Sella, please, will I be asked questions about my past marriage in a green card interview with my spouse? You may very well face questioning, but the likelihood of that or the unlikelihood of that really depends on what the facts and circumstances in your particular case. If there is an issue that you are concerned about in regards to your past marriage, you definitely want to get legal advice and take the precautions, know what to expect going in. So it is a possibility. User I8, go ahead, ask your question. That's why I'm here, to answer your questions. And so while your questions are coming in, I am talking about consular processing, applying for the green card in the US. So what I just discussed, a very common thing that happens is that somebody may be here in the US, they don't qualify for adjustment of status, but they're stuck because if they leave the country, they'll face a 3 to 10 year bar because they've lived in the US without their papers for so long. And there is a way around that through the unlawful presence waiver, or the I-601A waiver. And that's basically asking for forgiveness for living in the United States without your papers. Now, in this case, what will happen is, first, the relative or the employer can file the petition, and then once the petition is approved, before it is sent to the NVC, you can actually submit the waiver with it, the waiver application with the I-130, and then the officer will decide on the waiver. And if they approve the waiver, then you can take that and go to the U.S. Embassy in your home country, and you're on what's called unlawful presence, basically living in the U.S. without your papers, will not be held against you, and it will not be the basis for a denial. Candace Lawson, thanks for sharing my live. So that is one way to get around, being in the United States undocumented and not being able to leave at the same time. Now, for those of you, Jan 47794, thanks for sharing my live. So for those of you who are outside of the United States already, you have a relative who can sponsor you, then what happens is that relative will file the petition, the application first, and the officer is usually looking at just whether you're qualified based on the relationship and whether you sufficiently show that that relationship exists. So for a marriage, it's going to be evidence to show that it's a bona fide marriage, that the marriage is real by showing a marriage certificate, pictures, shared gifts, travel receipts, things of that nature. And then if it's a parent relationship, usually it's the birth certificate that will be one of the main pieces of evidence, and it's usually required. And so it really depends on the relationship, right? So once it's established, the officer is convinced that your relationship is real, it is supported by sufficient evidence, then once approved, it goes to the National Visa Center that will help you or stay in touch with you or your attorney, such as myself. I work with the National Visa Center to gather the necessary documents to prepare for the interview. So Jan 47794, what is the current cost for filing the green card? So when filing the green card application in the United States, there are particular application fees. So if you qualify to apply in the United States, there's an adjustment of status application. That's $1,225. And then if you have to apply for a work permit, it's $410. And then there's also the travel document, which is $575 right now. And a good way to verify these the fees is to go to uscis.gov and go to the forms that you need, and you'll see the cost there as well. So in Jamaica or any other country that your relative is in, what will happen is your relative will file the I-130 petition usually. You're welcome, Jan 47794. And once they pay the so that fee, there's that initial fee at first, and that is going to be $535 for that fee. And then after the I-130 is approved, usually after 8 to 12 months, then there are more fees to pay: the immigrant visa application fee and the affidavit of support fee, which usually comes up to about $445. And then at that stage, you would also file for the medical exam. In both cases, if you're applying in the U.S. or outside of the U.S., the medical exam, which can range between $200 to $700 US, as well as incidental costs like travel, copying, notary fees, or like, for example, in Jamaica, it's the justice of peace fees if they have to sign anything. Chev Logs 1. Is there a job wage requirement for the spouse that's a citizen for illegal spouse to get their card? No. So there's no wage requirement. Butter Jam. It has been a year since my petition was filed. Do I have to take a step or wait for a response? So what I would do is I would call the USCIS or get in touch with the National Visa Center to make sure they don't need anything on your end, that everything is okay with the application. It just depends on who is processing your case. If it's a USCIS, go to the website and file your application. Call them and ask about your application. Okay, so Kate, thank you for following me. I helped my husband get his 2 years, but I want to cancel because he used me. What do I do? So at this point, I help immigrants to gain legal status. I don't usually advise on how to lose this, how to get somebody to lose their status. So unfortunately, I wouldn't be able to advise on that. So Suyenya, hey there, can I travel 1 month before my green card expires? So the first step that you should be taking is go ahead and file for a renewal of your green card. And what you will get is a receipt notice that gives you an automatic 12-month extension on your green card. So the best way to do that is to apply online to get the receipt notice to get that extension fairly quickly, so within a day or two. That way, no matter what, you will be covered. So if you end up being outside of the United States for longer than you anticipated, you're not coming back on an expired green card, which can create issues like just going through a secondary inspection, which can be unpleasant. So you want to make sure your travel is smooth, especially when you're coming back into the country. So I would recommend that you apply for the renewal. But if you plan to travel and you plan to leave and come back before that expiration date, you should be able to do that as well. So, hey, I'm out of status. What can I do? So, I think this is Cat Pal. It depends on what your circumstances are, what's going on, who are your family members, whether you qualify for the green card. I would really need to evaluate your circumstances in a consultation. So what you can do is give me a call at 561-405-4889, or you can go to the link in my bio where it will take you to the website, where it will repeat the number I just said, as well as a contact form you can complete to be able to speak with the scheduling coordinator to schedule a consultation, because you may have options, but I would need to evaluate the totality of your circumstances to give you an answer on that. So Sienia, so is the extension the letter they will send? With that letter, can I travel for how long I want? So always keep in mind that when you have a green card, you don't want to be outside of the country for too long. Preferably, you want to be outside of the country for less than 6 months, and I would say far less than 6 months. However, that extension letter will, you can use it as basically you use it along with your green card to, if you get a new job, that would show that you have an extension on your green card. If you're traveling, you take that letter along with your green card. So yes, you would be able to travel for the time period that you want, but just don't go over 6 months, because you don't want to run into problems where now they're assuming that you've abandoned your green card. So Butter Jam, I'm just curious, is the case sent to the National Visa Center after USCIS receives and approves it, or later on? So yes, it's sent to the NVC after the USCIS approves it. And it usually is sent to the National Visa Center about 4 weeks after the USCIS approves it. So Antonia, hi, my I-485 interview was canceled in 2019 due to unforeseen circumstances and is yet to be rescheduled. That is a long time, and what I suggest you do is give them a call and let them know that you, first of all, make sure everything is, they don't need anything additional from you, and also let them know and ask if you can push for an interview. So you really just have to get in touch with them and see what can be done. 242. I haven't received my brother's letter from NVC yet since 2014. So it may be that this is a very long processing time when a U.S. citizen is sponsoring their brother. And so it may just be because the processing time is so long, it's not time for you to get a letter from the NVC. So keep that in mind. And make sure you keep tabs, call them, make sure there's nothing they need from you. So marriage base, I've called them. So Antonia, I've called them, spoke to tier 2, and they said everything is okay. So unfortunately, yes, they are backlogged terribly. And, there are sometimes under certain circumstances, there are ways to try to get the case pushed forward, through congressional intervention. But these are tools that I have that they may work, but they're not guaranteed to work as well. So Butterjam, thank you. I'm glad that I'm helpful. That's the reason I'm here. How long will it take to approve, for the USCIS to approve? It really depends on which service center, what type of application it is. You can go to uscis.gov and go to case processing. And then if you seek out the form and the field office or service center that's processing it, then you can go ahead and see what time range they take to process it. So Suyenya is saying, no, not 6 months, just 1 month. Okay, great. But just make sure that you either book it to come back before it expires, or you make sure you file for your renewal of your green card, and then get that extension letter before heading out. So Antonia, I'm also in NYC. Wait time is 18 to 42 months. Yes, so it is long, unfortunately. Yes, it is frustrating. And the fact that it's 18 to 42 months means that it doesn't appear like you're outside of the processing time, which can make it harder to get the case moving along. So it's basically a waiting game. So Abhi, do you help with B1, B2 visas? Certainly, yes, I do. You can give me a call, schedule a consultation, and we can talk about what you need in order to get the B1, B2 visas. So Yenya, you're welcome. Ashley, I just had my baby in Chicago in October. I don't have legal papers, but came home before my time. So congratulations, first of all. And let's see, I'm not in the US. Can I still apply for my green card because of my daughter? So congrats on your baby. But usually having a US citizen baby isn't enough to get a green card. You will need to wait for your US citizen child to become 21, and then they can file for you. So it is still, unfortunately, right now, there's no way for parents of US citizens to just get the green card until the child becomes 21. So all great questions, awesome questions. So keep the questions coming. I'm basically, you're welcome, Antonia, and great. So what I'm going to do to make it easier is I'm going to put my number in the comments and it's under the immigration attorney. And it's 561-405-4889. and you can give me a call or go to the website and contact and complete the contact form. So yeah. So Marcia Russell, I got a letter from NBC from January and they don't call. So I would want to know what letter this is. Is it you know, what type of letter it is, because they contact you to let you know that you know, all the documents are completed, or they call to let you know, or they write you to let you know they need documents, or they write you to let you know they've scheduled the interview. So it all depends. So Butterjam 48, is the processing time on USCIS page accurate? So it is, I am assuming it is as accurate as it can be, because it's directly from the office. And what they're doing is they're reporting the range of time it takes them. So it's the average time. It's not going to be necessarily accurate for one individual, but it's giving you an idea of the range of time that you should be expecting. Of course, there are some outliers where some people are going to be waiting even more than the range of time, and some people are going to be waiting less than the range of time. So Jewel, can you help a person to get a USA visa? Yes, I can. However, the first step is to do the consultation with me to verify that you qualify for the US visa, and then I can advise on steps to go ahead and apply for it. And Marcia, thanks for sharing my live. Thanks, Evie. I think that's Eve. Thank you for following me. Thank you for following me, Marcia Russell. What happens if they revoke your visa for 5 years? So if that is the case, if you want to return to the United States, you'll have to apply for what's called a permission. And if you want to return to the United States or apply for a visa, I mean, it's much harder in this case to get a visitor's visa, but there are ways to apply for forgiveness. But along with that is, if you want the visa before the 5 years is up, you will have to apply for permission to reapply for re-entry. Then, you know, whether you qualify for it, the likelihood of you getting forgiveness really depends on the facts in your case, and whether you can meet the requirements of the waiver. Since I apply to renew my green card, how long does it take to receive it? So I've seen processing times of 9 to 12 months. So that extension definitely helps. That paper extension definitely helps to, you know, alleviate some of the stress during that wait. Josie and Naomi, thank you for sharing. You're welcome, Joelle. So Zubin for you 71, expedite. I think this is a question about whether there's a way to expedite a U visa. In some cases, yes, but it usually has to be based on certain criteria, like an emergency or something compelling, and a circumstance that's compelling enough. So Abhi 0124, I'll be speaking to you soon. Thanks a bunch. You are welcome, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. So Nikki Hunt, hi, can a person get a green card if they are married and over 25 but has a parent who has a green card? So unfortunately, green card holders cannot file for married children, only unmarried children, unfortunately. So Chiami, I was married to someone who got his citizenship 2 years after our marriage and asked for a divorce. So definitely no. No. In certain cases, if your U.S. citizen spouse mistreated you, doesn't have to be physical violence, doesn't have to involve a police report, but if they were mistreating you, they were verbally abusive, emotionally abusive, financially controlling and abusive, then among other things, then there is a way to apply based on this issue. And you could apply for the green card, but the divorce has to be, if you are divorced, I see here, I think he asked for a divorce. Now, whether you're divorced, if you are divorced, then you have to, the clock is ticking because you have to apply for this less than 2 years after the divorce. However, if you're not divorced yet, this is also an option for you. So give me a call if this is your situation. So none of 1, 2, 3. If was approved for a petition form I-130 and didn't continue with my mom's application, I'm 29 by now. So usually what happens is if you don't take action on an approved I-130, usually after a year, they close out that I-130, and usually you have to reapply unless there's a good reason and you know it's reopened. Okay, so it was in 2005, so you probably will have to start the process all over again, because that probably was closed if you never took action on that approved I-130. So these were all great questions. Let's see, I have another one. I applied for asylum and I missed my interview because I didn't receive the letter from immigration. So in that case, what you should do is contact the USCIS and explain the situation and see if they're willing to reschedule. None of 1, 2, 3. I was a child abused. So in this case, you said you're 29. The cutoff time to apply for the green card based on abuse, and I'm so sorry you went through that, but it would be under 25. So yes, you are right in that if you are abused as a child, but now you're an adult, you can apply, but you must be under 25. Otherwise, you lose eligibility. Hi there, PD Moreno, and I'm not from Trinidad, I'm from Jamaica, but the accents can be close, and that's of course a neighbor, but I am from Jamaica. So keep those questions coming. I'm just going to close out. So they were scheduled, but because of COVID, they're canceled. Do you think I will have a new schedule? I would get in touch with them and sort that out to figure out what happened, to make sure they know on their end that they're supposed to reschedule. So Marcia Russell 4, my husband filed for me in taxes. They tell my husband that that it approved. I get a letter state that so PD okay, so PD Marina said that was the second guess. Thank you, PD Marino. And Eve, thank you for sharing my life. So user 4409, I applied for the work permit for asylum application. It's been a month now. When will I get it? Please tell. So the applications for work permits are taking about 6 to 8 months. Could be less. I've seen as little as 4 months, but be prepared for a 6 to 8 month process. So let's see. So Marcia Russell, I read your question, but it seems that it got cut off. So if you can, just retype the question so I can understand it better. And thanks, PD Moreno, for following me. I appreciate that. So to close out, I am going to just finish up what the process will look like with consular processing. And thank you, Chiami. Thank you for sharing my life. So now, once it gets to the NVC, they send it to the embassy. Once you have given the NVC all the documentation that they need. And then you will get your interview notice and attend. Then once you attend the interview, you do your medical exam. You get your police certificate in the country that you're living in, and then you will attend the green card interview at the U.S. Embassy in your country on the date and time specified in your interview letter. Usually the NVC issues that. The officer will ask you questions depending on the basis of your application. If you're applying through a spouse, they're gonna kind of delve into your relationship to make sure that the information that you answer, the answers to your question, are consistent with what's on your application. In marriage-based green cards, the spouse is usually allowed to attend the interview but not required to attend the interview. Now, if you're doing the adjustment of status in the US, you're applying, you're doing the interview at a USCIS office in the US, the US spouse is usually required to attend. However, in other countries, the spouse is not required to attend, but it can be helpful for the officer to see that the spouse is there and supportive of their spouse. So PD Morena, did you also immigrate to the U.S.? So my parents were immigrants who came to the United States. Actually, my grandparents. So it all started with my grandparents, and then my grandparents brought up my married parents. And then they had me in New York. So I was born in New York. But when I was very young, my parents took me to Jamaica, where I grew up until I was 17. And then I came back and finished school and went to law school, and the rest is history. So I was born here, but I grew up in Jamaica. And so that is why I have my strong accent and my strong Jamaican identity. So thank you all for tuning in to the live. I am here every day. And so I went to the University of Minnesota Law School, and then I went to the University of Florida Law School for my master's in law and taxation. Thank you for all your questions. I am here every single day. I try to close out tonight is a late night, but I try to do an afternoon session, and then I try to do a night session, usually between 7 and 10, but tonight was a long night. So jokes on you. I have deportation in about a year. Can I hire you? Of course. Yes, absolutely. I do deportation defense. Just give me a call at 561-405-4889, and we can talk about what your needs are during. And I urge you to do it now, even though you have deportation in about a year. It usually takes a year. In some cases, to prepare a good defense. So you want to make sure you get ahead of it. Give me a call and we can talk about what your needs will be. So Nasir, do you really need to let the USCIS know if you change address? Absolutely. So yes, there is called the form online that you can quickly complete, and you will have fulfilled your duty to provide the change of address. But yes, jokes on you. Thank you for following. Thank you, everyone. And thanks for everyone. Your questions were excellent. Thank you, PD Moreno, for your well wishes. I wish you the same. And just make sure you follow me so you see when I go live. You can hop on and ask your question if I didn't get to you tonight. Have a good one, everyone. Bye.